that one.
Rockies and the Indians.
No.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh!
Smoking some of them left-handed cigarettes
I
when you
don't
came
smoke
in.
that stuff.
Cigarette.
I don't smoke it and I don't eat it.
Did you get a packet, right?
Yeah.
So we'll give it a couple minutes for
Thank you.
Don should be here. And Kate won't be here till 7. And then the other chair is vacant, I remember, correct?
What's that?
We have a vacant chair, right?
It's Katie.
Yes.
Katie's chair,
Yeah.
no.
Kate, Katie Cook, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Katie moved out of town, so she couldn't sit on the board anymore.
And I'm an alternate, right?
Yes.
Well,
Tonight.
Well, there's 2 alternates and 5 regular members.
no, you're the real
So
deal.
if Katie was a regular member, now we have to take one of the alternates.
She was an alternate,
Oh,
and
she
so is
was?
Ursula.
So who's the other one that's not?
Don.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Don and Kate.
Don usually tumbles in right about now.
That'd be funny if you
So you've been in the planning commission meetings before?
Yeah, for other events.
Oh, just like-
After all these years, you know,
Those are all-
Yeah.
I mean, they're all a little different. so-
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, Chuck, you're letting me down, man.
First I did this in New York.
Yeah.
And
Oh, New York?
then- Yeah.
Where?
I saw you down there.
Long
They didn't
Island.
have
Oh,
much.
okay.
I was working at the sheet sale house.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, people say that. I kind of lose it,
Yeah.
but
I didn't really notice it at first.
yeah, once I say it.
Yeah,
I just knew.
So which county?
I just knew it was
Nassau
gonna be.
County,
Nassau
Suffolk
County.
County. This is
Sheet
Long
sale
Island,
house.
yeah, the suburbs. So
Those
I
guys
represent a lot
did.
of. They call them villages out there.
Hard too.
And then he's for about 10 years. I've been here about a year.
Put the
You
long
see
sleeve
Greenwood
shirt
Village?
back on, so
I'm sorry?
Did you say something about Greenwood Village? Oh, I thought you said something about Greenwood Village.
Seriously?
Oh no, I was in the villages in Long Island. That's where I used to represent.
Yes.
They
And
call them
then-
villages, not cities there on Long Island, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's just interesting how they
And then here, I've
want
been to Nederland a
that
lot. That's
and
where I
the
usually go.
rest the same.
We represent Nederland, yeah, and Edgewater.
We used to have them all the
Um,
same.
Wheat Ridge?
Playing golf.
Wheat Ridge,
for-
yeah.
The mayor thought he needed to be one step higher than.
Well, I don't know
We represent
why
other
they
people, but those are the
go.
ones I've
Sure.
been
In a few
playing.
years, right?
Okay.
On these
Yeah.
ones?
Mhm.
It's been quite a few years. Anyway.
We got a quorum, so we might as well get started.
Question before we start. I have an Airbnb. Do I get to discuss at all?
Well, there's no motion
We're
being
not-
made.
Yeah,
we're
not
not
today
making a
at all.
motion.
no.
This is just a quick discussion about where you want us to go with this.
So
We're not voting on it.
if when the time comes, you gotta declare that. But today's discussion, so if it was under an action item, that's when you gotta.
So only when we vote. Cool. Perfect.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Okay. You're gonna give me the nod.
Okay, you're on.
We got a new system here now.
You're actually on YouTube.
Oh, good. Over here. I call the October 4th, 2017 Planning Commission to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
William Mayer,
Present.
Kate Collier, Cindy Olson,
Here.
Don Reimer, Chuck Howard,
Here.
Ursula Cruzaligi,
Yes, dear.
G,
Keith.
G.
Okay, we need to approve the minutes from the July 5th, 2017 meeting that was in your packet.
I'll make a motion to approve the July 5th, 2017 minutes.
I will second it.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We'll open up new business now. And the first order of business is discussion and recommendation to City Council of Ordinance Number 21, Series 2017. An ordinance amending Article XII of Chapter 21 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code to regulate and allow small cell commercial wireless telecommunication service facilities. Boy, that's a mouthful.
That is the excitement of government.
Okay.
Alan Tiefenbach, planner. I'm going to very briefly just talk, but I'm going to probably turn it over to the attorney. So this was a recommendation from our city attorney. There was a legislation that was passed, I think it was in July, that basically makes small cell facilities. Those are those repeater type facilities, so they're not the full telecom antennas. Those are like the small antennas that you see that sort of bounce the signal to boost power. There was recent legislation that requires those in the, that they have to be used by right. That there is a a 90-day time limit on how long it takes the city to review it. I'm trying to think if there was a third. I thought there was a third thing. The
Mandatory access to the rights of way, so they can just walk there.
Oh, in the right of way. So I think Nina will probably clarify more. This was something that again was led by the city attorney. We have some representation from the attorneys tonight, so I think she'll maybe fill us in a little bit more on it. I know the basics of it, but probably she could explain it better than I could.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Nina. I work for.
You're not gonna talk into the mic though.
Oh, okay. I'll just bring all my stuff. Can everyone hear me? I'm kind of loud. So we drafted this ordinance for most of all the municipalities that we represent, based on the House Bill 17-1193. It went into effect in July, and we have good indication that the industry is going to start, applying for these permits if they haven't already. So what it does is it gives a lot of power to these, the industry, as he's saying, expedited permitting process, meaning we have to, from start to finish, push these permits through within 90 days, mandatory access to the right-of-ways, and then it has to be a use by right in all zoning districts in every municipality. So those are the state mandatory terms, but there is some leeway that we have for local control, and that's where the ordinance comes in. So that's why we drafted it. I'll try to go through it quickly. But basically the important part is section 21-185. So setback, design, and location is in local control. So that's why we have priority for location, because they are allowed in the right-of-ways, but we say, first, second, third, we want to have it on, a utility pole that already exists, the priority to protect the local interests, height, spacing, design. I'll keep it brief, just if you have any questions.
Who's gonna come in and do these? Put these cell sites in? The small, their booths, is that what it is? I mean,
An example was when we had that conditional use permit that was done by Verizon Wireless over at the water treatment plant. That was that wasn't a full scale tower. That was a repeater. So that would have been considered a small.
And why are they trying to get such control over it?
I would assume that the telecom lobby has a lot of power and basically said this is what we're going to do. So this isn't asking us. This is
that's the state law.
this isn't asking us. This is telling us that this is what we want to do. So they've drafted.
So they can control it.
So we can control the way they look and the way that they go, and they're also required to do a conditional use permit, but we can't say no.
I was wondering what triggered all of a sudden. Is it because they were just randomly going up all over?
Probably somebody got. You might have the answer.
It's for data.
It's usually somebody gets in trouble with the municipality and they complain. They go lobby the state legislator.
And I think the industry did. Oh, do you know more about this?
Well, I did some research on that because I was like, I don't know
Oh, good,
what this is. And apparently, it's because everyone now wants to have videos on the go on their
The
phones.
data. This is for the data.
So
on your
yeah,
phone.
and I saw a couple of those when I was looking for pictures of what they look like. I recognized there's some along the canyon, which that's awesome because then if you're an emergency, you can have access to that. But the other thing that I found out is that they actually, once they have a pole or whatever they attach the thing to, there are no restrictions for them to do as many as they want. So I was looking at some pictures, and they started with one, you go permitted to put one thing here, and then they can keep adding all those on that post, as many as they want, and I don't think they even need to ask you permission again.
I think we could control that with a conditional use permit, couldn't we?
Yeah.
They would have
that's
to, the conditional use permit could say 1 or 2 repeaters, and any more than that, you would have to come in again and amend the conditional use permit, isn't that correct?
Right, so if we don't pass this legislation, I guess they could put it anywhere, but this ordinance is to kind of give us a little bit of control as to where they can go and priority.
So they can't put as many as they want, but they have to go through a process every time they want to. If they're exceeding what the conditional use permit says they can do, they have to amend their conditional use. Is that right, Nina?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's a limit. I think you're right that there's no limit.
Yeah,
But you could put these on your house if you wanted.
Well, so that's why we have the priority, which is the location. So, you know, we want them to be on, I'm trying to see the second
You
page.
could do stealth.
First, a city-owned utility pole, then a utility pole with attachment to small cells, then a third-party owned utility pole, then a traffic signal, then a freestanding ground-mounted facility. So that's the priority. They're not really looking to put them on people's homes. And we're saying by this ordinance, if you pass it, that this is the priority that they have to go in.
Well, what I meant is just from the sound of it, I can purchase this myself and put it on my home like as a booth.
No, I think it's just like the carriers like.
It's a
spraying
carrier to
it.
help date for the data. So like when you're on your cell phone and you're,
To protect the
Isn't it supposed to be
areas so
within
the
right of ways,
carriers
though?
don't come in and start
I thought
pulling
it said it had to
poles.
be within
No,
right
no,
of
no, no.
ways.
Right.
It's actually the carriers the ones that are doing that.
Did it say it had to be on right of ways though?
It's not private things, it's for the carriers to do that. They actually, the lobbies are the one that presented this. And,
right, so telecommunication lobby is very strong, so they pushed us for the state legislation, they passed this legislation, and now we're reacting to it, so this ordinance will allow us to do whatever we can within our local control up until that limit of where the state, you know, their law preempts.
And is this ordinance drafted by your company or was it sent by the industry?
No, we drafted
Yeah,
it.
we did.
Yeah,
Said that earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I drafted it along with a partner in our firm, Jerry Dahl, who's been an attorney for about 40 years, and he's gone to conferences and stuff, and he drafted them, and I helped him with it. So no, not the industry, and we're working with the municipalities.
Cool, and I appreciate that. I read and the research I was doing, they said that the industry is sending these drafts of ordinances for to approve. I was like,
That
I
makes
hope this is
sense.
not the case.
But
so
no, we're
thank you.
not, no, we're not. We represent you guys, but that's the question, because you never know.
So this is probably as restrictive as B can be with the state law.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Can I have another question. So on the section 2, when it's defining, wow, can I say this? Well, either way, it says the alternative tower facility, this is what it is, the micro cell facility, this is what that is, and it says small cell facility,
Right.
and it tells you it can either be A and B, or just a micro cell facility.
Which is defined in the.
Yes.
Right, so it.
But, and what I read is the micro cell facility, I mean, the volume of it, I mean, the measurement of the box is 15 by 12 by 24 inches.
Right.
So and then the other option is 27 square feet, 17 cubic feet. So that's like a huge difference.
Yeah, 17
Right?
cubic
So,
feet,
and
yeah.
then on the small cell facility, they're calling it, the small cell facility can be a micro cell facility or this other thing that is humongous. So my thing is like when they're applying for the permit or whatever, they can be saying, they can be calling it small cell facility and we could imagine that it's the micro cell facility, but they could also be talking about the big other one, right?
Well, it's still smaller than a huge cell tower. You mean the 17 cubic feet in volume?
Yeah, I just thought there was like a huge difference to just be able to call it either.
So these are technical terms with what we're being told these facilities, how large they are. So it's like either or.
Is there any way to have them be like small cell facilities one thing and micro cell facilities another thing? I mean, just because I feel like if they're gonna be applying and they're like, oh, it's a small cell facility.
So both these types of facilities by state law are inclusive in what we have to go along with, if that makes sense.
So these
These terms are taken from the state law
Gotcha.
because these dimensions are what we're being told, you know.
I figure, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good question.
I mean, but you don't think there's anything else we can do to just try to separate them? So at least we know that they're applying for something little, something bigger. Yeah.
Well, maybe we can work with their permitting.
Well, yeah, you would know that though through the conditional use process.
How big
Yeah,
it
a
is,
conditional use permit would come to the planning, they would still have to go through a conditional use permit.
Yeah.
So although that's a little confusing, because it says a use by right in all zone districts, but then it says a conditional use permit, and a conditional use permit is not really, well, I guess it is a use by right. You're mitigating the
You have
impacts.
to.
Mitigating the, so you would still review these, and there may be some ability to mitigate the impacts. They can't just put them up.
And the reason why I did that definition in that way, wrote it that way, that small cell facility means A or B, let's say, is because just to kind of streamline it afterwards, that all that we're talking about in this ordinance is applying to both these terms. So it was just kind of like a legal way to kind of include it all instead of like repeating terms, if that makes sense. So that's why I did it. But the dimensions are what's given to us by the state legislation.
Okay, cool, yeah. I'm just kind of not happy that they want us to just do what they want.
Right.
Yep.
That's why I asked her, I said, this is what we're stuck with, right?
Yeah.
This is-
Right,
Yeah,
unless
it's
you
ridiculous.
call your state representative.
Yeah, it's the same it's the same kind of process with school districts here. A school district and a lot of public buildings can sort of do what they want and come in front of us for kind of a little pat on the head, but they really don't need to listen to us. They're
Yeah,
regulated by the
that's
state.
what it says here.
Are there any other questions for me before you guys vote on it?
Sounds like we're, yeah.
This is
I
your
was
best
just
option.
Yeah.
So one more question, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
On the permitting, it's G after that same section. Small cell facilities and networks shall also make application for a permit to work in the right of way. And that's the conditional use permit that you're talking about?
It's for,
I
what,
know.
do you
There would be
guys-
two. One would be a
Right,
conditional
for the
use
work.
permit, and one would be a right-of-way permit.
Okay.
So it's sort of like you can get a conditional use permit, but you still have to get a building permit before you can build whatever you want. It's the same thing with this. You get your conditional use, but you still gotta go through your permit for your design and your wind loading and all that stuff, which would be your right-of-way permit. Am I answering that right?
Yes, yes, very good.
Just watch out for those cords.
I know, and I'm a klutz.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the proposed revisions to section 21 of the municipal code of the city council pertaining to small cell facilities.
I will second it.
Okay, is there any discussion? You happy with the motion?
Yes.
We don't need a roll call for this one. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. The next order of business will be discussion and recommendation to City Council of ordinance number 20, series 2017, an ordinance accepting and recognizing a portion of Soda Creek Road as a legal public street.
So what is going on with this is that, so we are, this will make your head hurt, so don't look at it too much. This is a survey, but basically, let's see if I can show you on ClearMap. We are getting ready to do reconstruction of Soda Creek Road. You should probably be aware of that. As we were doing the survey work and looking at what our right-of-way easements and such were, it was later figured out that actually none of that right-of-way is actually city right-of-way. It's all owned by, wow, just the name, just,
Surety.
thank you, Surety. You can see, basically, this should be kind of a no-brainer. So here's Soda Creek Road, here's the hot springs, and if you click here, you'll see this is owned by Surety Investment, and if you click here, you'll see that that's also owned by Surety Investment. Now the difference is, for instance, if you click on Colorado Boulevard, that's city right-of-way. So Soda Creek Road has been used as a road for whatever number of years, and it's never technically been city right-of-way. So as we are working on the reconstruction of Soda Creek Road, one of the things that we're doing is Surety is, I can't remember if we're deeding it or if we are taking, are we abandoning it or are they deeding it over to us?
I think we're just getting right away, right?
So
So
we're
it's a
basically
right-of-way.
taking, we're
It'll
taking
be a
the
city
right of way, so
right-of-way.
it'll be city right of way. What you're seeing in the staff packet is a legal description of the right of way and the survey of what the right of way is. So basically, if you would be supporting this, you would be voting that Soda Creek Road would actually be city right of way versus sort of a prescriptive easement that people, not even that, just
Crossing private property.
Yeah, crossing private property, basically.
But if it wasn't city road, then would the owner have to be the one fixing it, not the city? Just a curiosity question.
Yes, this is one of these
Just
things.
curiosity.
We've
I
been
live that way, I want the
maintaining,
road fixed.
we've technically been maintaining a road that's not ours.
Yeah, it
Um,
sounds like it.
And I guess if they wanted to be jerks about it, maybe we would bill them for 50 years and make it so, but I guess that's an option, right? If you don't give us a road, we're gonna bill you for
How
all
far up the
maintenance.
road is it? Is it from the stuff all the way up?
This is, I think the survey is showing all the way up to the city
That,
limits.
that map was tough to,
Just
It's really
curiosity.
hard to read it.
Alan?
It basically,
Al, if you X out of this box on the left here, see up there by the ram? Or by
it's
the
kinda easier to see.
sheet?
Um,
Okay, that'll give you a little more space and then it'll be below. You can see the city
Let's
limits
see.
is
Okay, so that is
right,
owned by the city of Idaho Springs
right there on where your arrow is, right?
But
right.
other than that,
Yep.
all the rest of it, so I can't remember, where, is this Tim's house right around here somewhere?
Somewhere in that area.
So
yeah,
right,
one
if
of
you know
those.
where Tim Mock's house is, right about where Tim Mock's house is, becomes, there's a teeny little sliver of it, city right away, and then it turns into county. But all the rest, basically, Tim's house north, all the way to Minor Street, is, well, all the way to I-70 is basically private property.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll scroll north there a little bit just so they can see that.
So all
in
in
the
front of
bigger
the
picture.
hot springs and everything isn't
Yep,
city
that's all
right away?
surety property, the whole road.
Interesting.
So that was just yet another one of these things that we discovered as we're doing these.
Surety.
Sort of like Area 28,
It's a
we found out all
trust,
that was city property, nobody really
with the
thought of
Shriners,
that
it's
before.
affiliated with the Shriners,
Same kind of thing,
has
we're
been
going through the process
historically
for
the
like-
Shriners.
So we
Sure.
could be really tough and make the
Who knew?
county.
I guess we do.
Not our piece,
Not in the city limits.
not in the city limits. We could be
Oh.
tough and tell the applicant that they owe us,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just kidding.
But the city didn't
Oh,
want to,
right, the
city didn't want to
ultimate
invest in rebuilding the road until we had proper, rights to it, if you will.
Right, right.
Right away
And
and
they're
all that.
willing
Yeah.
to give the rights to us.
I'm sure they don't wanna maintain it.
Okay, just
one-
curious.
now, one thing I noticed on this, and I see it gets, this map's tough to read.
It's really tough to read.
It
it's a
gets,
survey.
the right of way gets incredibly close to the buildings. And I see it says 60-foot right of way, and that's one thing that I questioned it. Does the city gotta have that much?
Part of the reason was, a sidewalk will be on the east side, all the way up to the city limit. So we did need, and also parking, the head-in parking there that's in front of the hot springs, that will, be maintained, but it will be expanded as well, so we'll have more, that's all, that'll all be public parking. I mean, obviously mostly used by the hot springs, but that, head-in parking will extend all the way to the north up to Montaigne, or near Montaigne. So we'll have quite a few more, parking spots in that area for overflow parking, either for the hot springs or for downtown events or whoever wants to
They're not
use
gonna
them.
use that park for camping anymore at all?
No, it's not very usable right there because there's a lot of water table issues, as you know, in that area. And then you just have that strip there between the road and the creek. Now, they may eventually do something on the other side of the creek, but right in that area, and we've worked with them, they don't have any plans for that area.
It'll clean it all up.
It really will, and they'll provide a safe pedestrian access to and from the hot springs in Montaigne, to the downtown. And help with drainage as well. Drainage is a huge issue in that area. So.
I like it, the cars go real slow and I can pull out cars. Because they're not coming down that road very fast.
Yeah, it'll have curb and gutter. It'll look a lot more like a city street instead of a, country road in that area.
Okay, when is that supposed to?
We hoped JVA, our city engineers, in the final design process for that work. The plan is to go to bid maybe next month, put it out for bid and start construction after the first of the year, weather dependent. And we'd like to try to get it done before the higher summer season.
We were gonna do it this last summer, but delayed it
Because of Colorado
City
Boulevard,
construction.
there's so much under construction, yeah.
Okay, that was the only question that I had. The legal description was like, geez.
Okay, I'll Make a motion to make the recommendation to the city council to formally accept the Soda Creek Road right away as indicated on the attached ordinance and exhibit.
Give a motion in a second. I don't think we need a roll call on this one either. Is there any discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye. Aye, those opposed. That motion carries. My understanding is that's the end of all the new business we had. Then we'll adjourn the October 4th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting. Okay, now we just adjourned the work session.
Are you waiting for me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
The
okay.
comp plan first, you wanna
I
do?
thought there was gonna be some big.
Or leave
Well, I know
it,
Cindy,
like,
Cindy, I know
Alan's gonna
that.
present
Are-
the comp plan, a couple
I
sections
just-
of
I
the
didn't
comp plan
catch your
that's being
name.
updated.
Yeah.
And then we've got a
Nina,
couple
are you
issues.
staying for any more of this?
Yeah, that's
Good.
okay.
You're
She's gonna
welcome.
stay for
You
STR.
may wanna
Comp
weigh in on
plan
the
or
short.
Well, I
term.
think
Yeah.
Kate wanted to weigh
I've
in on
drafted many of
STRs.
these, so.
Yeah, because that's,
I have a
some-
lot of experience with the short-term rentals for other municipalities, so I could be here for resources.
that would, if you don't mind staying.
Yeah, I would love to. I was
just
planning on
What
it.
we're looking at, we
Kate
just,
wanted to be here for short
Well, she's the
term.
one that raised this issue.
do you want? Okay.
It's up to you. I know
As long
she's
as
the one
Nina's
that-
okay
she's the one that-
staying.
Oh, I was planning on it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to, yeah.
So let's go.
We have one, member
Well,
who's
comp plan,
particularly
you
interested
probably
in
bust
short
through pretty
term.
quick.
Okay.
She's not here yet.
That's entirely up to you,
It's
planning
up to
commissioners.
her.
I cannot answer that question.
Well,
We got a couple things we caught here in the comp plan. So if we wanna wait till Kate, I guess we need to go to comp plan then and,
yeah, let's do that.
okay.
All right, so this is the last two elements of the comprehensive plan. All of the other elements have already come in front of you. This is the Parks, Open Space, Trails and Rec element and the Historic Resources element. Following discussion and or revisions of this section, which you're gonna see very soon, most of the finished product of the comp plan is now put together. It's all weaving together, looks pretty, it's got pictures and graphics and all that stuff. So it's all set up. These are the last two sections that are gonna squeak in there. It'll take me a couple of days to fix them up and make them pretty pictures and all that stuff. You would expect that maybe, I hope, depending on the amount of comments, within the next week, you will get a link with the completed comp plan. That there is going to be a public open house where I'm gonna do a brief presentation and present the comp plan to the public, and that is on October 25th. It'll be from 5:30 to 7. At 6 o'clock, I'll do a presentation here, to sort of present it to the public, hopefully not get lambasted. Following that, then November 1st, the finished comp plan will be coming in front of you. Again, it will be the finished product. And then, hopefully, after that, it will be going to the city council on November 13th, hopefully for adoption, which astonishingly is almost exactly on time that I thought we were gonna do. It's pretty remarkable that we did it.
Are you requesting that we be here also on Wednesday, October 25th?
That's entirely up to you. I mean,
That would be great
If you
if-
want to introduce yourself as who you are, and I mean, it's certainly the I'm
No,
not
I
steering it under your.
Sure,
Guys,
unless
so-
the Cubs are playing
I was gonna say, depending on the World Series.
a critical game that night.
So the next. So basically, we have two sections left: Parks, Open Space, Trails and Rec, and Historic Resources. The Parks, Open Space, Trails and Rec basically briefly talks about the importance of open space. It highlights what some of our current projects are right now. It talks about the Clear Creek Rec District. It talks about the Greenway. It talks about the Virginia Canyon open space. It talks about that as a sort of in detail. And the other thing it has, which we didn't have in our existing comp plan, is now has a map. So if you may or may not know that the city recently purchased GIS, if you know what that is, Geographic Information Systems. So when we started out with this process, basically I was drawing things and communicating to county mapping what I wanted them to do, and went back and forth, and they were charging us a lot for that. We bought a GIS, now I'm creating them all in-house, and it's already paid for itself. I mean, the amount of money that the county was charging us to do the maps. I'm not saying they're expensive, but it's expensive. We've already paid for it. So anyway, there's a new map, which was included, which shows what the
In the
trail
second
alignments
one,
are,
so-
it shows what the parks are. So if you want, like we've done before, we can just run through this paragraph by paragraph. Is that the way we want to do it?
You got a ton of notes?
Yep, just go.
Yeah, just go.
Don't go fast enough.
All right, first paragraph. Anything?
Parks first.
What is that? Oh.
Very first paragraph.
So I think,
Go ahead.
of course, that we should add sustainability somewhere in the goal. I was thinking maybe in between fosters and recreational, like
Let's see.
sustainable.
Okay, wait a minute. Foster. Where are we at?
So as the first line, pretty much, we aspire to be an active, healthy community that appreciates the outdoors, our connection to the natural environment, and fosters sustainable recreational opportunities within our mountain community for all ages and abilities.
It's the very top sentence.
In,
Goal,
in the
above.
goal.
The goal.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Fosters. Say that again.
Just sustainable.
Right after Foster's. Foster sustainable.
Okay. Fair enough. Keep going. Anything in the first paragraph?
Okay.
You want me to just highlight this stuff and then if you guys have comments, let me know. Okay. Next two paragraphs.
Do we have a study of recreational opportunities or
Hmm.
anything of that?
Not yet.
We're glad you asked
That's a
that.
good question. So the open space parks, trails, and recs element is a 30,000 foot view, right? The comp plan is general overview. This is who we are. This is what we want. These are our priorities, and this is what we want to do. Following this comp plan, at the very end, you'll see there's a recommendation that we do create a city master plan. Originally, we were going to do that master plan as part of the Virginia Canyon Open Space. Due to the very quick timeline, we're focusing right now on Virginia Canyon Open Space because that one's just taken off. So yes, there's going to be a specific, I hope, as long as I'm not fired, there's going to be a specific recreational master plan that you will see in the next couple of years that will talk about management, recreation opportunities, and all that for the entire city. It won't be on this stuff, but this does recommend that. The comp plan is the general plan that's supposed to drive everything else. So over the next few years, if I haven't died or haven't been fired, you'll start seeing me coming to you to implement parts of this plan. We're going to go through and do a strategy, and one of the things you'll see in here will be a recreational master plan. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
And it's in when you get down to the policies, you'll see that we talk about
And
that.
then it'll help leverage funding because you
Yes.
have it in here.
Yeah, right. That's one of the first things they ask you when you're doing a grant. In fact, we're applying for grants right now, and one of the questions is, does your master plan support this? And as long as this gets approved in November, we can say yes, our master plan does support Virginia Canyon Open Space.
But it is our desire to do a recreation master plan within the next several years for the city, because that certainly is one of the most important aspects of our city and the region here is recreation. And with the cutbacks that the rec district is going to be facing with some of their reduced funding, with the mine scaling back, we as a city need to work closely with them. So we would do this in coordination with the rec district. And exactly who's doing what are their priorities. We're losing a tennis court, we're going to have to put that somewhere else. When the Greenway goes through on the east end of town, the skate park will be either have to move or have to be scaled back significantly, as another example. So the area over by the ball fields, that's one area that's been identified as a possible expansion of recreational opportunities, whatever that may be. It could be the tennis court, skateboard park, rock climbing, I don't know what it could be. But there's limited water and sewer service over that area, so other types of higher development are less likely there without significant investment. But for additional recreational opportunities to add on to the ball field area there, that might make sense. And that's what a master plan would help us with.
But we're not gonna need like a study of like hire someone like like we did for downtown.
We probably will.
Yeah, so they
Yeah,
can
I don't think I'm gonna be
this
doing-
space is good for this, and.
But
I'm
there's
tired of
money.
doing stuff in-house.
But there's monies available.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, that.
We would be seeking a
you know,
grant, yes, that's exactly right, and that was what Al was referring to, that we had several grant opportunities, and we just had to set some priorities. I mean, Alan can't do it all, we have some other people helping us, which is great, but we also had to be strategic about it and also prioritize things, but,
Right now, you're already at 28, it's kind of in everybody's attention, so we're trying to keep that one rolling while everybody's
Everybody
watching.
should be attending the thing on Sunday.
the
Get your
fundraiser, yeah.
tickets already.
Does everybody know
Feast.
about that?
Feast by the Creek.
Feast by the Creek,
Everybody know
everybody
about
should
that?
have their tickets.
Yeah, you should come.
You got your ticket?
You
I
should
don't know
come.
what you're talking about.
Rabbit Grass is playing too, that's gonna be pretty awesome.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Seriously?
It's
No?
a fundraise for Area
Wow.
28.
So Sunday, and maybe I didn't, so Sunday, so, long story short, the city has been working with the Colorado Mountain Bike Association, the Clear Creek Greenway Authority, and Team Evergreen to raise funds to fund the design of a plan for the Virginia Canyon Open Space and for the construction. And we're having a big fundraiser at the Argo Mill and Mine this Sunday, the 8th. We've already got, I think, almost all the tables full. They're buying $1,000, $5,000, $2,500 tables. Rapid Grass, the band is going to be playing there. Louis Benitez, I don't know if you know who this is a big deal. He is directly under Governor Hickenlooper. He is the head of the Colorado outdoor recreation industry. It's about as high you get. He is our keynote speaker, speaking on behalf of this park. It's a big deal. And so for individual tickets, it's $75, or because it's a fundraiser. There's a dinner, there's a band, there's a silent auction, and then there's also tables for individual donors. You can still buy tickets. I can send you the stuff.
Feels like not my cup of tea.
I got people in from Illinois.
Or you could go on the website, you go to Planning and Zoning, and you'll see Feast by the Creek. Are you going, Ursula?
I just bought my tickets.
Good. You gonna be there? All right.
I gotta ride the train.
So it's gonna be a really fun. It's gonna be a lot of who's there. But let me take us back here.
Okay, sorry,
It's all right.
sorry.
I didn't know anything about it.
Tina,
It
you're invited
doesn't-
too.
yeah.
Okay.
I got
Thank
folks
you.
in from out of town.
Existing recreational opportunities. Anybody have any comments on this?
Okay, where are we?
I've just highlighted it here. Existing
Oh.
recreational opportunities. 2 paragraphs under there.
This page, okay, you're good, keep going.
Okay. Here's a listing of our recreational
Okay,
facilities.
I got just a duplicate on that. It's 14 and 22 sound like the same to me.
Yep.
That's because it is.
Okay.
And then
bad.
I was thinking that maybe we can add the Idaho Springs Community Garden as well. I mean, I know that
I
now
thought
it's
about
part
that.
of.
Is that what it's actually called?
Yes. And I mean, it's part of
But
the.
it's-
What do you know about
park.
community
It's part
gardens?
of the
But
Courtney
it's
Riley
not out there
Cooper.
anymore, is it?
It's
It will
it's
be,
coming
yeah.
back.
Yeah, and it's part of Courtney Riley Cooper Park now.
Where, you get to put it over there?
Yes, I mean, pretty much across
Okay.
the street, but it's the same area now.
Easy
So I
enough.
thought that same thing when I went through it. Went,
Okay.
And what about local trails? Would that be a thing to mention? I mean, the ones at least are, that you can
Well, none of
get
them are within
from
the city of
downtown.
Idaho Springs. I'm only
Okay.
listing
Gotcha.
with stuff that's either owned by the city of Idaho Springs or is within the city of Idaho Springs. That's, the trails that you're talking about, like Barber Forest, for instance, that's all
Well, I was
unincorporated.
thinking the water trail, but yeah, you're right.
It's
What
all-
about the
Waterville Park?
Yeah, is that?
Yeah, we have that.
Cool.
right here.
That's it then.
Anything else on that? I'll show you this map in a minute. Here is a blurb on the Clear Creek Metropolitan District. This is talking a little bit about what it is. It's talking about that with the impending of the closure of the Henderson, that they're going to be looking for funding, that we may have to enter into some kind of cost sharing. We don't know exactly. I kind of left that open.
The only, I don't like with the impending closure, perfect example is 3 weeks ago, they announced they're staying open until 2026.
Possible?
So I think that should be wiped out and it should just say the district will continue to be exploring creative ways.
So cut all of that out?
I just don't think referring to Henderson, I think it's such a negative.
They released it 2026. Oh. then
They're looking
yeah.
for 60 employees right now. Yeah.
So just drop the first line or to the
And
comma.
let me tie this to that then.
We can
Any
just say something like.
potential loss of property.
Yeah, just to, I just,
The amount of property tax revenue from the mine regardless will be declining. I think the issue is about, when the closure will happen. So I think there could be some wording to that effect, Alan. About, about that, being
You
creative
wanna
and.
mention
and-
that then? I'm confused.
Well-
but we don't know that. I mean, everything I've attended when they're there representing, I don't find it, they've been saying that since I moved here and I've lived here 35 years.
Hmm.
And they've been saying that for 35 years. So but that's just my thought. I just find it as a negative.
Well, it's the truth.
Yeah, it is the truth. I mean, probably the same, you've heard it. Yeah, you've heard it ever since you've lived
So
here.
what's
haven't
am
you?
I
But I've always thought part of that is it keeps their valuation down, so they don't have to pay so much
Okay.
tax. That's why they keep saying what they say, because it.
So am I leaving it like it is then when I cut?
Yeah, I think what you got typed up there now is probably good.
Everybody good with that?
I know Andy wants something with the property tax, but,
Well, I have compensate for any potential loss of property tax.
I think that's
oh,
good.
yeah,
That's
to
good.
explore
That's
other
good.
options. Okay, so.
And I
yeah,
think that
okay.
second sentence is very true,
Yeah.
because there has been some talk about whether the city will have to take over maintenance of the ball fields, as an example.
Okay, yep.
Okay?
Okay.
Recent recreational projects. First paragraph of the Clear Creek Greenway. It's kinda hard, I can't get on
Looks good.
both. Idaho Springs Greenway segment, this is just a description of where it is. Courtney Raleigh Cooper Park.
She got all kinds of marks in this page.
Which one?
But, when she sits over here, I can really see, but I can see the marks from here.
Which one?
So on the first paragraph on the Idaho Springs Greenway segment,
Yep, wait.
I think we should change the wording when it says, present bicyclists and other recreationalists must navigate along unsafe, disconnected, and often traffic congested roads through Idaho Springs. That sounds
Negative.
really negative.
Yep.
So I was thinking we can change it, maybe, like, say bicyclists and other recreationists don't have access to bike lines, or something like, must navigate along roads with no,
Do not,
Or maybe it
I don't
should,
know how you say
just
that.
say
do
must
not have
navigate.
dedicated,
There you go.
dedicated,
Bike lines.
Access.
Designated
designated
bike
routes.
routes, or, I mean, what are they, you see bike
Well,
lanes in
you're
other
doing, yeah,
communities.
Do not have
and it's for more than just bikes too.
Improved
I mean, it's
and
walkers.
dedicated
Pedestrian.
routes. How about that? At present, bicycles and other recreationalists do not have improved and dedicated routes.
Yeah, I like that better.
Improved?
Well,
No,
I
I
mean,
mean,
improved.
this is when you gotta say something is now, because it's,
Well, yeah, no, I don't think improved needs to be there. You can just say,
how about specifically constructed?
That's true, because it could leverage somebody to bring some money in and want to construct them.
that sounds good to me.
Get that? Anything else on this paragraph?
I mean, this is like, say it now or forever hold your
Ah.
peace.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be happy if everybody
Yeah,
makes
for
tons
you.
of comments after I put the entire, there's a lot involved with actually putting the final version together. It's not just Word, it's not a Word document, it's like, it's a
Formatting.
publisher,
Formatting.
it's a publisher with formatting, and every time I add sentences, it runs things onto other pages, and the pictures move, it's a mess.
Just beware, everybody jumps on the bandwagon.
Oh, I know, it's like at the 11th hour, I'm
Yeah.
just scared I'm gonna get all these comments, it's
You
gonna
will,
take
I
weeks.
mean,
Courtney Raleigh Cooper Park.
but we'll support you in saying too bad you're too late.
We already made the
I'm basically
decision.
gonna say, unless these are some deal
He's
killers,
laughing
we're not gonna discuss it all over again, basically. We've had a year.
Got anything on the court around?
Yeah, smiley face because it says community garden.
Craig's undergoing, so let's see.
We're good?
Does it say community garden?
Yep,
Oh,
Yep,
we're
I
good.
probably thought Ursula and added that.
She put a smiley face there is what she did.
But smiley faces are good. Virginia County Open Space, anything? This one's blowing up right now. Recent developments with Virginia County Open Space. City Council support. That's just basically saying goals to move forward.
Can I ask one question on the Virginia Canyon open space?
Here?
There was something out there about trying to create a name for the area? Are you still trying to move forward?
We don't have a name yet.
I guess, where you have in parentheses, also known as Area 28, maybe it should just say, well, I'm just thinking, how could you word that in case the name changed, and it's already written in there, but. You know what, do you see what I'm saying?
Virginia Canyon Open
Where you
Space.
name it?
Let's see.
Well, no, also no, because that would be the second name to it, also known as.
Everybody knows it as Area
Yep,
28.
Yep, so also.
There
Until
may
we
be,
come up with a
Virginia
special
Canyon Open
name.
Space is
Yeah, but
very,
you'll have also have known it as Area 28, it's fine.
there could be a different name, but we have no idea what it
Right.
is at this point. But it really, even regardless of what the name is, it's still the Virginia Canyon Open Space. That's
Well,
kind
and it
of
was
why it's
also
a very
known as
generic.
Area.
And that's what we're referring to it
Yeah.
now officially as Virginia
now.
Canyon Open Space. Yeah.
Okay,
VCOS, I've
Okay.
learned. That's what the bike community
Wow.
calls it. VCOS.
okay.
Someone made the suggestion that maybe part of the area might be known as Area 28 when it's developed.
Yeah,
And
they're
that way
thinking-
you can keep that
Right.
well-known name, but
The
that
thing
might
about
not be the
having like
overall.
maybe the part that's the most dedicated to the mountain bikes
Might
being
be.
called Area 28, and then other areas maybe being called something else.
But the
Sometimes
old-
you'll have parks that have different areas with different names.
Okay. Okay, no, we're good.
All right, objectives and strategies. First section. Anybody? No?
No, I don't.
Second section. Third section. Anybody?
Are you done? Really?
I'm watching Ursula. She
That's the one.
Well, I know, that's the one to watch.
Yep.
Last section.
If we could satisfy her,
I'm actually becoming to fear her, actually.
My husband doesn't like that.
I'm getting to the point where I fear her. Last section? Okay, and then I guess I would say, so, wait a second, where did I put it?
so that was it for the,
Wait, no, we got
Parks,
one
right?
more little thing.
you had that one map.
Yeah, two maps, actually.
One's one side of town, one's the other.
Full screen. Here's map one. I think everybody's seen that, right? Hot press brand new map that we don't have before. That shows all of the parks. It shows the ones that are existing and where there's expansions proposed. It shows alignments of potential bike paths. It has the Virginia Canyon Open Space shown on it. And it shows the major bike routes that aren't like constructed. They're just kind of like a shoulder type thing.
Oh, see, Anderson.
Any comments on that, Matt?
Yes, I do have comment on the legend.
Okay.
It says paved separated trail and off-street non-motorized.
Yes.
If you could change one of those colors, because I think it's really hard to tell on the map if one is skinnier than the other, if they're not right next to each
Maybe
other.
make it dotted or something.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
And what about Anderson Park?
Which one's Anderson Park?
Right to here?
I have that shown, I have it shown as City Hall, but I don't have it listed as Anderson Park. It's really small. It's there.
Okay.
Let me fix that thing Ursula said before I forget. Let's see. I could probably make this dotted. That would make it easier. Let's see. Give me a second here. But I want to do this before I forget. Oops. Okay, anything else on that then? No? I don't know why that just happened.
That was an addition. Yeah, you got one.
Oh, sure.
Fundraiser, I think you guys have the fundraiser.
Bye.
Let me, sorry.
You wanna save it?
Now that-
Maybe that for the
Yeah.
alternates.
I'm going, yes, thank you.
She's
Yeah,
the other
my
person's-
apologies. I'm trying to get through, or I'm trying to get through this here. I'm trying to save this or I'll forget it.
You're welcome.
Open space, PC. Okay. Okay, there's map one. And then we have map two.
There's probably differentiating the same on that one.
I don't even, yeah, I mean, again, I'll probably make that a dotted line.
And just the one on map 2 that I noticed, is you don't have it named, and it does have a name, and I forget what it is, it's the old game check station, there's a park in there now.
Oh, yeah.
Is that our park?
I think it's actually in the county, but it's right adjacent to the city boundary. The city boundaries kinda
Let's see.
go here and there and
The
everywhere
one
in
where
that
that's
there's,
area.
our-
there's a house over there and it's gonna.
I think it's actually outside the city, Alan.
I think you ought to just add a name to that, I don't know if it's game check station,
I think that's what it is.
park, or whatever. But what it is, they actually got a trail that goes over Twin Tunnels now and heads north and,
Walking?
Really?
Have you walked it?
No.
They have a really cool spot in there.
I was gonna say, I'd take the dog over there so that you can check them all down
I cracked myself up. That was a good one.
there. He's going to do it, Cindy. He just hasn't gotten
Well, I
around to
thought,
it.
how the heck does he know this unless he walked it?
Okay,
Nina's gonna
That was
be
the only
wrong,
thing
aren't we?
that I got on that.
anything else on that?
Entertaining.
Okay. Next one is historic, or let me close this. Okay, historic resources. Goal or first paragraph? Anything?
Nope.
That came right out of History of Colorado. P in planner stands for plagiarism. It's a joke.
No, it sounded good.
Benefits of historic, I would be lying to say I didn't cobble together a lot of things, but it's a public document. I'm not rewriting the wheel. It's enough work as it was.
No, and the
Benefits of
fact that
historic-
you were mentioning where you were taking the excerpts from.
I will, if I steal something, I'll quote it. I'm not that stupid. Benefits of historic preservation.
Okay, I just had the last paragraph.
This year?
Yep. Where did 14 new jobs? That, when you look at the dollars and it only created 14 new jobs, I thought, whoa, that's not very good.
You want me to not strike that?
Yeah, I would say so. I just,
I can do that if it
Yeah.
hurts it, sure.
I mean, wouldn't you agree when you read it? It's like 14 new jobs, but yet you had 1.03 million.
A lot of times when I'm
1 million.
writing this stuff, I'm just
I
so,
know,
I'm so
wondering-
intimate
I just-
into it that I may not have caught
That's how I
the
used it.
implications of what I'm doing.
Okay,
That's fine.
that's all I had. Yeah.
Anything else on that? You were just giving me the teacher look.
No, I'm so tired, I can
Oh.
see.
Yeah.
I
Looking
can't.
down at me in my glasses like I was in
Kate,
trouble.
Kate's not the one to be scared of over there.
I am kind of scared of
Not until
myself.
we get to Airbnb.
Heritage tourism.
But good.
Heritage tourism. Anything on that? No?
All of this is pretty.
This is really
factual.
exciting stuff.
Yeah, actually.
Section 106 review.
You know what, I think it's very well written, because when you sit there in meetings and you talk about these things, and then like the 1041 regs, people don't understand them.
Yes.
And this very much explained it in a good way.
Thank you. That was a very major priority of what I was trying to do with this comp plan, is take these very complicated things and make them for the layman. Because even I, after writing this whole comp plan, I cannot remember everything I wrote about the transportation section, so I'm gonna need to go back at it and look at it and read it.
And read,
So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm researching this stuff, and I become an expert on it, and write it, and then I move on. So, you know, I appreciate that.
Actually, the 1041 even cleared it up for me with the lines.
The more exciting stuff, area of potential effect, that's really exciting stuff. 1041 regulations, what they are and how they work, anything on that? In fact, Carmen helped me with some of this stuff to get it separated, because I was having a hard time figuring out 106 versus 1041. Certified local government stuff,
Which one? Nope. Okay.
Idaho Springs
Alan?
and,
One thing is just, I just noticed, you have 1041 regulations in regard to historic preservation. When you have section 106 all by itself, can you put some prose in there that might just elaborate a little bit what section 106 is in the header, just like you did with 1041, if that makes sense? You see what I'm saying? You've got some wording right after 1041 in the heading. Maybe put
Oh, yeah.
right after section 106, just briefly
The
state
headline.
in the heading,
you wanna give me a recommendation?
Section 106 regarding the effects,
I think he's referring to right next to section
Yeah.
106.
yeah, it's just, maybe, section 106, regarding
Federally,
effects on historic
In regard to the
properties
impact, impacts.
of federally funded projects on historic preservation,
Impacts of
or historic
federally-
properties.
Funded projects on historic properties. How about that?
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah, because there's a federally funded project like I-70, right? Then there has to be, you know, consideration of historic properties, basically. I just thought putting that in the heading might just
That's fine.
help. Okay, thank you.
Is
1041
that where
regs?
you wanted it, is in that part or on the heading below?
On the heading.
On that, or
Oh, you're right. I wanted it on the section
Yeah, you
106
want it
heading, Alan.
down
Right.
below where it says
Yeah.
section?
I wasn't looking at the
why-
screen.
I
Yeah.
don't know why I just did that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right
I'm
down
like,
here,
wait a
Alan.
minute. I
No,
don't
that's
think
my
that's-
bad. I don't know why I just did that.
Okay,
Um,
no, I'm glad because that's what I thought Andy had meant.
Right there.
Now you didn't copy and paste it.
well, I did, but it's gonna be all caps.
That's all right.
You see how it done there? There you go.
Let's see if I can make it.
I don't think you can do that.
You
I
can.
should be able to.
You can. Lowercase.
Oh,
No, I did not know that.
I'll share an easier way.
Okay, back to here, Idaho Springs and historic preservation. Any comments on this?
I did, okay. I gotta read my notes here. The city has occasionally had difficulty finding and retaining qualified individuals for HPRC, and they have to complete a survey of the entire city.
Actually,
That to me is just a total negative. Difficulty finding and retaining, I don't think needs to be in there.
No, you don't wanna
And
know.
what survey are we talking about? It's a
you're talking
survey.
about surveying the
Historic
properties?
survey, there hasn't been one done for the
6 to
city,
0.
only
Oh,
parts.
gosh.
You mean
And-
only the historically designated
Hit that.
properties?
And so,
Only Colorado Boulevard,
They were
Colorado
good.
Boulevard, the downtown Deersake and a few residential properties, but not the whole city.
They were gonna do the
So
whole thing
maybe-
at one time.
I mean, I can cut that whole sentence.
I think cut the
I
whole
think so.
sentence, but maybe you might put in there, the city goal is, for the city
To complete a
to
survey.
complete a survey.
I know.
I mean, if we need to have that in there as a vision and a goal, you bet, put that in there.
Yeah.
But not the difficulty in finding and retaining.
The city
So keep it as a goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or an obje- yeah.
Strive to
Cause I think,
complete
you know, with you guys and having a planner and stuff, it makes people more interested. So maybe it
survey
could be
the
accomplished
entire.
again.
How about that?
You still have
This-
occasionally, you take that.
That's gonna come out.
Okay.
The city should
Oops.
strive to.
Do a survey of the entire city.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are, that's what something you're trying to get done with that. Okay. That's all I have.
First sentence of the reconnaissance survey. There's some stuff that a lot of people didn't even know. There's a lot of stuff in here nobody knew about. These are files Mary Jane gave me. This is what, that said, I actually tried to start trying to map some of this into the GIS and it wasn't possible. It was way too macro of a scale. I couldn't figure out exactly, the properties didn't match. It would have been worse than not doing it at all. So,
Alan, do the properties, when they get surveyed, do we have to ask owners' permissions for that designation, or is that, I mean, is that something that they can deny? If we
You need
find
their
these-
permission?
What's that?
You need their permission?
yeah, I don't, you would know that more than I
Hmm.
would. I don't think we can, I don't think,
I don't think you can
E-
designate
either-
a property without the property owner's permission.
Yeah,
I think-
Actually, during the last survey, there were a couple that declined.
Right, well, because you have
Huh?
to follow a certain structure when you go to
Right.
designate your house.
You have
so
to
I can
get
understand why
HPRC
you
approval.
possibly wouldn't want
That's
that.
only if it's in the historic district.
No, that, you're talking about designating properties as historical. If you do, am I right?
Yeah, they're talking
yeah,
about.
I'm not sure if I know that answer enough to tell you yes or no, but I,
So maybe we aren't striving to do a whole survey of the whole city.
Gener-
Do you know what I mean?
well, that's different. A survey is just looking at the structure and determining if it's historic and what its history is and what needs to be done to restore it.
You're not
The
designating.
survey is what's
that.
used to decide if you want to designate it as a historic landmark.
Or it could be. So
Right.
you would just say, hey, this is.
So we looked at your house, Mr. X, Mrs. X. It's a historic structure. We would like to have this designated. If you want to agree, here's the benefits of doing that.
And the cons, I hope.
Yeah,
And
the biggest
survey
con would be
is
tax
literally a
credits.
survey. It's just
Okay,
looking to
that's
see
cool.
what you
I
have.
just wanna make sure, that, yeah, those 2 points.
This Historic Society of Idaho Springs, this was the only, just about the only section out of our existing comp plan in regard to historic preservation. It was a good description of the Historic Society, so I just left it and just made a couple little tiny tweaks to it. Any comment on that?
It's
US
it's
four.
historical, right? It's historical society, am I right? Or historic, it's historical society, am I right?
Historical.
Is it
Historical.
historical?
Historical,
It's hysterical.
well, right, but it is historical too.
Hysterically historical.
I mean, it could
Say
be.
that 5 times fast.
And
Yeah,
then,
and you have it farther down, Allen Historical Society, in the second paragraph.
So it'll be good.
US Forest Service is U.S.
Where am I at? Where are we looking?
Oh. Yeah.
Then I
Did I
wanna be
miss
before it,
any
not-
historicals? Did anybody see anything else?
In the heading and in the first paragraph,
I
I
got
see,
that.
yeah, okay.
And then you have that capital O on office right after what I was talking about. I don't think you need it there.
Information,
Forest Service Information Office?
Well, or capitalize the whole thing, is that if that's what it's called, but. So maybe you might capitalize the I and leave the O capitalized, you're right, yeah. Are they gonna stay there? Is that the plan?
yes, the US Forest Service, yes, for information.
So
Yep.
Cindy asked a question, who's housing in the old forest station right now, just out of curiosity?
They're still there.
It's just office space.
Okay.
They were trying to renovate the inside, cause Deb took me on there one day and thinking of using it like as a conference place and stuff, but that was about a year ago. I don't know if they're still
I haven't heard anything about
pursuing
that.
that.
Mm.
Not necessarily a conference, but a place where you can have well,
Like an off-site
Meetings.
meeting area or
Yeah.
something like that.
Trainings and.
Yeah.
Anything,
and they were doing some stuff in there, but
Mhm.
anything about this sentence? It's kind of a short sentence. So this here came as kind of a surprise to, I think, me and Andy. I looked on all 3 of these websites and looked what these registered landmarks are, and these are correct. So there's some things I think that we thought may have been registered landmarks that weren't, and there's some things we didn't know that were.
Minor Street Bridge, which
Yep.
one? This one?
Mm-hmm.
That's a national historical landmark.
Because we left the trusses on there when we rebuilt it.
Wow, I didn't.
And another one that I didn't really think about is that Blue Ribbon Tunnel
Yep.
that you can see from Memorial Park. And only 2 of the 3 hose houses have actually been designated as historic,
Right, because they
landmarks.
haven't restored the other one.
which I thought was odd too. I'm not, yeah, so, I don't know if there's much to argue about on this. This, whether or not we like it, this is what it is.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry.
Central House would be in your downtown historic district.
Right, anything in the historic district, and I have that
That's why,
listed.
that's why your
Automatic.
third, that's why your third hose house is what you just
So that
mentioned,
tunnel
down
right
there.
through here is, you know, I have to say, I took my granddaughter there a couple weeks ago, we walked through, it was so trashy.
So it's, so basically it says, in addition to the 57 structures within the historic downtown district, right? So there's that whole historic landmark Main Street, capture of all those things. Then in addition to that, there are specifically registered things, and that's what these are. Some of them are within the minor street because they're actually important enough that they've called them out specifically. There's a map that you might have seen that I can show you in a minute, which actually shows the locations of all these things, including which we actually really didn't have before, which we should have, which is a map of what is our historic districts. We didn't even have that, so we have it. I'll show you in a minute.
Yeah, I don't think we ever had a map, we just had the verbiage, right?
Yeah, which I had to go through and figure out block by block what it was saying. That was not fun.
Because all of a sudden there's one building.
It's in the zoning code. It
that's
says the historic preservation, the historic district is this, all of lots 1 through 5 of block 32. It's mind-numbing to map it all. All right, historic resources objectives, first ones.
I guess strategies for me, going back to that other paragraph, where did this first one come from to explore incorporating HPRC into planning commission?
That is something we're discussing now.
And I don't think it's a bad discussion by any means, but I don't know if we have to put that in here. I mean, because I don't know if everybody would agree with that one. I mean, my first thought.
You're right.
My first thought of it was no way, but then the more I started thinking about it, I thought, wait a minute, you could, and this is for discussion, you could maybe include 2 more seats on planning, and the other 2 seats is some people that are interested in historic, and then as long as you have guidelines, I don't see any reason the planning commission couldn't, because it is hard to get qualified people, but I think it's a discussion that has to be out there. I don't know if necessarily putting it in here and then not doing anything is a good idea. I don't know if you want to
I'm leaving out to everybody else.
create
I know it's a
the-
touchy subject.
Yes, I don't
That's-
know if you want to create the,
That's why I said explore it, and if we're doing it, we should at least have a professional involved with it. But again, this is your comp plan.
In that option, you seeing as just being us and just the professional?
I think the way that it would
It might
seem
not
to
even be
me, I'll tell you where I came up with the other, about the professional ideas. Mary Jane has some strong opinions about this.
with
And
a professional or without?
with not having an HPRC or having it being in the planning commission, I'm just using her as an example because that's who I spoke with a lot about historic preservation because she has so much resources. She was not thrilled about the idea, but the idea of at least having an architect or something like that that reviews these and makes recommendations if needed to me so that I can make it to you was something she could swallow better.
And I think maybe that's what I'm saying too, is I could see incorporating it because of volunteers, but my original thought, like I said, is you might increase it from 5 people to 7 people, and the other 2 people that are appointed, you'd want people from town, and that have a genuine interest in the HPRC and the knowledge. I don't know, I'm just throwing that idea out there, where that way you could bring it to planning and we'd have the guidelines, because there are set guidelines where you're making decisions based on trying to follow the guidelines.
Doesn't HPRC use the State Historic Society's code?
Not.
We have our own
because
design guidelines.
we have our-
And the Secretary of
Yeah,
Interior's
the design guidelines
guidelines.
refer to the Secretary of Interior as part of the review. That's part of the review in the historic preservation section of our zoning code talks about the secretaries, whatever they're called.
Secretary of Interior guidelines.
Thank you. And
And
it also has, and we also have design guidelines.
Yes.
And I think when you have those boards, just like that board, it is volunteer stuff, and people get on the boards and they don't know anything, but they have a genuine interest in wanting to participate and be part of the city, or as well
I
as
think
a
you're-
perfect example of it. I mean, she brings so much to the table, but it is hard to get these I could see combining it and making it work. But I just don't know if putting that in here like that is going to create an issue.
What kind of
I
issue?
keep looking at Andy and.
People
I mean,
that, people
ultimate-
that don't wanna get rid of the HPRC.
Yes.
Well,
People that don't
ultimately,
like
it should be the
There's-
city's decision to do
Yeah,
that.
but there's some people that have a real passion, and let's use Mary
Exactly.
Jane as an example, is she's put her heart and soul into starting the HPRC and being involved in it and stuff. To see it crumble and go away is not a good thing for the city though also.
I don't think it's actually, my belief is that the intention is not to have HPRC go away, but to have a redundancy, like on council, we're also the liquor authority, so we're not,
But that's what I'm saying, you could do it, I just
Right.
don't know if this verbiage needs to be written in the HPR, in the.
well, what I mean is that I wouldn't want Mary.
You guys want me to strike that paragraph?
And I don't think
I think until we
HPRC and
come up-
planning commission is a duplication of services either.
I don't either.
I think they're totally two separate.
I can see where it could work though, we've got a different dynamic of what's going on here with Andy and Alan. It's a totally, it's professional. I've been around a long time and involved with it, where it's bringing it together where I could see, because HPRC, we should know that stuff on planning commission also. It's
Right.
part of the city.
I mean,
To
part
have
of-
the dual thing and to get enough volunteers, I think is a
You only have 3
difficult thing.
volunteers right now in HPRC, correct?
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, it's a hard.
We're having a hard time right now
We,
getting a meeting.
we have a couple agenda items for HPRC, and we have been
Can't.
struggling for several weeks to get a time when the few board members we have in HPRC can meet.
And
So
it
that's,
pisses you off when you go to the meetings and people don't show up.
Right.
Yeah, it really does. If you're gonna volunteer your time, but show up for the meetings.
So it's like-
absolutely.
So I guess, do I strike, are we saying we should strike the strategy?
November 1st.
I
Showing up for
think
HPRC.
I do think so. I think that this can stay as an internal conversation.
Easy fix, watch
Thank you.
this.
Alan, I have a suggestion too, along with that. Maybe, I think it would be okay to say something about how to best, sustain, we talked about sustainability, or sustain the HPRC, you know, and its role, you know, something along
Yeah.
those lines, just
Yeah.
re,
Say that we
Yeah.
just
we can figure it
restructure
out.
that a little bit, you know.
Yeah, sustain the HPRC, and it doesn't have to say whether you're incorporated
Yeah.
into another.
Yeah,
community.
I agree with that, 'cause that's just one possible option,
Yeah.
right.
To,
Sustain.
But I do think it could work with, if
Sustain
that's
for
the
what?
direction or discussion you guys
Sustain
have had. I
and
don't know.
Bill, you wanna say something?
He doesn't wanna deal with
Increase.
I don't want this board to be the
Okay,
HPRC.
so take out Alan the merging, okay, because but leave in some wording about there, about incorporating a professional to assist the HPRC and how it could be better, structured, or something like that. I don't know if we can give them the language right now, but.
HPRC Business and Planning Commission.
Well, but we don't always, how often do HPRC have to get
Hardly
together?
ever.
Not that often, but I see it, probably having to meet more,
Yeah,
with some of the work going on. yeah.
I
And
mean,
we-
we also, as a planning
And we
commission.
have actually a pretty big project that's gotta go to HPRC here this next meeting, in the, you know.
I mean, I
So-
get what you're saying.
So I could see it being more, Ursula, to answer your question. There haven't been the last couple of years many meetings, you're absolutely right, but I could see more coming. I mean, if we had a few roof replacements and things like that, pretty minor stuff. But now we have a building that's gonna be totally renovated in downtown that needs to go to HPRC, and we're kinda holding up that project because we can't get the group together, so.
How many volunteers do you need there? Is there any way we can, I mean,
Oh,
can
you
we
mean,
help them with,
our prime is going, no.
for now, until,
Yeah, dog stuff.
I don't know, like, I'll be happy to try to help, maybe.
Well, that is another
them
possible
or-
option, is maybe, you know, we have a council member who's on planning commission, maybe we could have
You bet, it could be.
people, maybe a planning commission member could be on HPR, I don't know.
Like, can I be in the,
I am on
HPRC.
HPRC, so.
Can
Okay, so there's an example, maybe we just need to do a little more of that, I don't know, but that puts more work on certain people.
and I was thinking too, I mean, with all the development and all the stuff that wanna happen in town, I mean, are we gonna have to be, I mean, not on a meeting more, but meeting for longer or that? So
Maybe. and I-
Potentially.
I think a good option to consider as part of the solution is getting more professional help, because the makeup of the HPRC is designed to have an architect and other people who have certain knowledge. And we may not either have those folks in town, or they may not be able to volunteer, so we may just have to figure out a way to bring in those, professionals when we need them for certain cases.
And if we don't follow some of the stuff, we can lose our historic designation.
We're already in danger of that.
Right,
Oh, are we?
yes.
Serious,
Why?
serious
Because
danger.
we haven't met we've met very few of the requirements of having a HPRC.
Right.
Because
And that's what I
the
thought.
You're
board's
supposed to
not
have
meeting,
quarterly
so-
meetings.
That's part of
You're
it.
supposed to do
That's
a
part of it.
survey once a year, or
Okay.
a NADA survey once a year.
There's a fair amount of work that goes
We
with
haven't done
it,
any
yeah.
of that.
Wow.
In
So-
fact, we had the director of History Colorado coming here, sort of nicely telling us you need to do these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would not be good,
No.
I don't think.
Is there, I mean, I think having a professional that knows about that, if there's no other options or locals or volunteers is the way to go. I've been interested in joining the Historical Society or
There you go.
HPRC.
for a while, and I mean, I went to school for architecture.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
You got
I
it.
don't
That's
know
one
if
more
there's a
member.
way
Can you,
that I be
would you
trained
swear her in
for-
right now, please?
Maybe she wants to think about it.
Or maybe we need to add you. Or maybe we need to add you.
I got a staff report ready for you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, never mind.
But we do have to be creative, no question about it, about how what we're gonna do.
I can tweak
Okay.
it, I get what you're saying.
What
many
should
members are
who
you
should I
looking
talk
for?
to and try to figure out, okay.
Have we beaten this one to death?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Next
I'll talk to
strategy.
them.
Well, that's good, you got a, okay.
because we gotta get this done, because we
Oh,
got,
yeah,
Next
yeah.
strategy?
Okay, that's, in fact,
Yes, it's
that's all I had.
7:45.
Anybody else have anything else on historic preservation?
No,
oh, and I like your map that you did.
Everybody see the map? Cool map.
and also last two strategies.
Sorry?
And I really like the last two strategies on the objective, promote the benefits of historic preservation. That's one of the
Oh.
reasons I got excited, I was like, oh, that's
Well, folks,
It's
that
done.
is the entire comprehensive plan. So
Congratulations.
these amendments, I can make pretty easily most of these corrections, make it pretty, and I would expect, that you should expect that you'll be seeing it. Does anybody want a sneak peek? Or do you want me to save the surprise?
Not tonight.
No, yeah, that's.
Oh, I like surprises.
Sorry. We
I would just show you what it looks like, I mean,
Show us what it looks like, come on.
Show them the cover.
Yeah.
you wanna just,
yeah.
or do you wanna wait and be
Full time,
surprised? Alright, I'll show you what your comp plan looks like.
Pretty cool cover.
Here's the front.
Hurry, alright, move on.
Oh, God,
Wow. Here's your front.
you can flip, there you go.
This is sort of the way that it's set up. Here's how to use the plan. Here's all the background. Lots of charts and demographics, vision statement. There's the vision statements. Here's all the different maps of each of the character areas that I put together to show where they are.
Alan, can you email it out, or is it?
It's
Just
gonna
so we
be
can, like,
linked
see
on
it?
the website. It's gonna be like 25 megabytes. You don't want to email it to you.
Yeah, no.
And then here's and all the strategies are going to be kind of called out like this. So you're the first people in Andy to see what it actually looks like. Came together really nice. I'm really happy with it. Hopefully you guys are too. It'll give you an idea.
Oh, Mary Jane loves ours, isn't it?
Now that you sort of see how it's all kind of come together, you can start getting a sense of the way it's actually going to work.
Was that a fire picture?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah, that was in wildfires. And then at the very end, we'll, let's see, wow, it's taking a time. At the very end, we'll have all the different maps. There's our land use map, there is our multifamily map, there's our floodplains, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we have, for people that need to do research, I have all of our references and our resources where I got all this stuff.
Are you referencing the maps on the middle of the thing? Like
Well,
I know
every
it's-
yeah, I tried originally to put the map in the middle of the comp plan, it really was kind of goofy. So every section says refer to
It's
the
professionally printed.
whatever. And then there's one section with all that. But anyway, you
it
see, you
would be
guys got
worthy.
some features what it's gonna look like. So I'm just gonna squeak these sections in, put some nice pictures in there to make it look cool, and it'll be coming out. deal.
Wednesday, October 25th.
That's the open house.
Open house.
That's the open house. And then the UD will come in front of you November 1st. Okay, before we start the STRs, I really have to go pee. Can I run to the bathroom real quick before we get going on this?
You're not done, you're not back yet?
Tick tock, tick tock.
I don't crack the whip, you're hard enough.
Mellowing out.
Oh, cool, it's done.
Any update?
I'm
At
going
least they're getting back in
It's
the
like you
game.
Yeah. 4 to 6.
Awesome, we're back.
4 to 6 Arizona, so at least we're getting on the board, yeah.
Jim Peters could be this then.
Oh, God, do you remember?
Must win.
Embarrassing.
Who's the
So
other guy that-
if Arizona loses, are they still in it? Does anybody
We
know?
had somebody, remember there was like.
I think it's a winner take all, isn't
Is
it?
it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
whoever
wins
wins for a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but-
yeah.
She was a mess.
But Arizona has a.
And they play the
I
Dodgers?
was like, what the hell is
said-
happening?
You're right, that's- 'cause that's why they're at home.
Okay, gotcha,
Yeah.
okay.
And whoever wins plays the Dodgers?
It'll be the-
What did you say, or?
I don't
I-
remember
it is the
now.
Dodgers.
I'm sorry, she
Whatever.
was completely.
Whoever loses out, and the
I
next
said
person goes to
something
the
in
next.
passing and
What inning is it?
I think it's Dodgers, you're right.
She was
Bottom of the
really
fourth.
being a
Still early.
professional, and now that's-
Or not early, but still got.
So like yesterday, the Yankees played, they won, and Minnesota's out. And now the Yankees play the Indians on the.
Oh, yeah, I was like.
Happy about that?
Yeah, I'm a big Yankee.
I was guessing.
But I became Rocky fan too.
Good, good.
It's okay, they're.
I'm from back
I was
east.
like,
oh, where at?
Diane's from back east too, DC area.
Oh, okay.
I'm a Redskins fan, or I was a Redskins fan.
You were?
Sorry.
Hit you in the head.
Are you also from that area?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm from New York.
Oh,
I don't have an accent in Canada.
Really not
No.
about me.
you got rid of
No, he
it.
talked like more stupid. I was like, I can actually interchange with a normal pace of a conversation. I can actually.
that last night with Tim was
Oh, I thought I
tough.
was gonna kill
He was
myself.
so boring that you were just like, oh my
What were you guys talking
God.
about?
Our last
Our
planners. The last thing he just.
One of your predecessors.
Oh, I got that.
Oh,
Oh!
I've never met him. I don't know.
I'm just saying, yeah, one of your predecessors and all.
He got mad because we
At
weren't.
the end,
doing
at the
stuff,
end,
and I
it
said,
got pretty bad.
Tell me
Okay,
why.
let's go.
Okay, let's
Brian
go.
Rocky's here to this proof.
STRs. Sounds a whole lot like that.
Nice.
It sounds like
STD.
a test.
I know, in fact, a couple of times I caught accidentally putting STD in there. So, everybody,
We should ban this.
protect yourself from STDs. So STRs, I don't have a whole lot of the background on this, but what originally was driving, what's kind of started the most recent discussion about this is that there are some software companies that provide this software. One of them was called STR Helper, for instance. There's several of them that are starting to contact cities because of the Airbnb and all these other types of short-term rentals. And these software companies can do certain services in regard to short-term rentals. I actually went to a demonstration on how they work. That's what you have on your desk there. From what I understand, a lot of times when you go on Airbnb and some of these other websites, it doesn't actually give the address of where the STR is. It just tells you the city, and it gives you sort of a description of the view and the amenities. Based upon the websites and the views and the housing, these people, I guess, kind of do a detective thing and figure out where all these short-term rentals are. They provide that to the city, and then depending on how much the city wants to be involved, they can just give you the information, or they can completely administer it for you, send the letters, make sure that all the submittal requirements for the application have gotten to the city, and even follow up, and they check once a day. Apparently, they sneak around once a day. They said they even sometimes they send like kids in summer breaks out to like investigate these places. It was a little creepy.
Yes.
Anyway, so they figure out, it's like the STR Helper was the one that I dealt with. So they provided us what they say are presently operating short-term rentals in the city of Idaho Springs. I don't know if they're accurate or not. I'm just going based on what they said.
Alan, did you say that members of the commission have that before them?
Yeah, I put it in front of you.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't include, I forgot to put it in the packet.
Okay,
So I printed it
thank
out.
you.
So there's obviously a lot of go back and forth between different opinions about short-term rentals. They've got their positives, they've got their benefits, right? And they provide necessary housing. They can be a great option for hotels. Sometimes they can be cheaper. They provide a lot of benefits to the property owners, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, a lot of things that you hear about are people that are renting out their whole houses and they're not being respectful of the neighborhoods, or parking issues. The hotel and the motel industry usually does not like these because they have to go through all this taxes and regulation, and these short-term rentals are kind of that whack-a-mole. It's really hard to keep track of them because it's all done on Airbnb or whatever the other websites are. Georgetown recently enacted some regulations. I thought that I put them in your packet, I didn't, sorry about that. Clear Creek County has begun the discussion. I'm not sure where they're at, if they're actually gonna go through with it. The staff was asked to write up regulations, they presented them to the planning commission. That's still a work in progress.
Alan, it is on the county's planning commission agenda
That's
for
right,
this
so-
month.
Right.
Yep, just FYI, so.
Then the question is how to regulate them. If we do want to head that direction, how do you regulate them? Because by their very nature, most of these don't list their addresses on their websites. And when you look at the cost of the services to do this, is the benefit outweigh the costs? Because we were quoted about $6,000 a year for Idaho Springs to buy into this program. If you look at the typical cost of a short-term rental license is between, on the low end, like $50 and like $150. There hasn't hardly been anybody that's charged more than $150 for a license for a short-term rental. So if we have 8 or 18 of them, then $180, $190, whatever, or what is it, $1,800, is that worth the $6,000 to pay for the service to have?
Are you
it done?
asking that question right now?
It's just a discussion point.
Okay,
So-
well,
so
because I'd like to comment.
We haven't written any regulations. This is just, it was brought to me to drop this as a discussion item to figure out where the planning commission wanted to go with this.
Well, in my mind, did anybody see the Georgetown, what they have proposed? I mean, so without this, because I actually think the counties is sort of convoluted personally. I think it's, I don't know, and I'm sure it's because they have different areas all over the place, and whereas Georgetown is similar to Idaho Springs. This one is complete. They're doing this, and I personally think that their ideas, what they have going on, is a good one. I do believe in the regulation of it. I live in a neighborhood personally that has at least 5 houses that are short-term something. I don't know what in the hell it is, but not only have I been affected by the garbage or the fact that the garbage is left outside and the bear drags it up the hill and I'm cleaning it up, or the lack of parking, or they're parking in front of my driveway. These are all things that everybody's going to get affected by. And then we also have the major issue of not enough housing in Clear Creek County. And if we keep pushing that we don't have enough housing and we keep allowing this to go unnoticed or unregulated, that to me is counterintuitive to what we're trying to do. So that's my opinion on getting the regulation in place. And as for, does it pay for itself? Because that,
But is it worth getting the service?
I actually think the service would take the load off the city, and so let's just say they make up $1,500 a year with, people paying for their licenses and their whatever. We just pay the rest and say that's what's in the best interest of the residents, period. Because that would be what we have to do to do our jobs, wisely. I mean, this is a city, it needs to take care of its residents, first and foremost. Business is second, and short-term, everything else third. That's my opinion.
To point out.
And does the city have an ordinance right now on
No,
short-term? Nothing.
I've actually had some calls
Okay.
about what are our regulations, and I've
My
said,
my
we
first
don't.
thought is that's the
regulate
first thing the city
on a
needs to do,
continual
is if we
basis.
allow it through
That's
Airbnb and
to me
stuff
the
like that.
hardest part.
But Cindy, actually, I asked specifically, because it did go to the city, Alan did mention it, and so did Andy. We did discuss it, I thought it should come to planning.
Oh, that might be fine.
That you guys-
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm just asking if we have one yet.
No,
I mean,
no.
because there was a while there that nothing came before planning, and so,
Well,
I mean, things have changed, but,
no,
yeah.
no, yeah.
So anyway,
How are you liking your packets now?
yeah.
Your
Isn't
boy
that a
wish for-
commercial? how you liking this?
Well, it is a
But-
land use issue, right?
It is a land use
Yes,
But
it
what
is.
I'm at, okay, so no, there isn't,
They really didn't exist though, I mean, let's be fair.
right. And then, I mean, you can go on Airbnb and, what's the other one?
VRBO.
Yeah, and look, and you can tell right away, I look at them because we're having employees that look for places, and yes, they do look at those places because sometimes they'll do long-term rentals. So I think it does work. I can understand living in a neighborhood and it's becoming an issue, that would piss me off. So I would want the city to have something in place. I know my language sometimes, so you would want something in place. I don't agree with this, having a company monitor it and, to
Instead
me,
of city.
I mean,
Well,
the
no.
reason this company will just pretty much tell us, oh, these people
Yeah.
is not paying taxes.
well, first of all, it's, you gotta put something in place, and I think of it as the same as business licenses. We've got businesses that go on in town and nobody has a clue that somebody's running their business out of their town. So I think you gotta start there, and compare the two. Do you see what I'm saying?
Do you-
Is,
are you-
we're not monitoring the person that doesn't have the business license. Now you're gonna monitor somebody's home at this fee. I think there's a different way to do it now. I think this is a company that's come in and they've got a little niche going here and they're presenting it for a package, you can get it for $6,500. Kind of like a reservation type, you know, it's a gimmick, not a gimmick, it works. I don't think that part's necessary yet. I think you try to put rules in place like the county has, and you start trying to implement those rules first.
Again, I think the $6,000 is really not what we're talking about. I think what we're talking about ultimately is, do we need
Regulating.
regulations?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be the first step.
That would be the
That-
first
Yeah,
step.
because I mean, whether we pay for it or not, I don't really care one way or the other,
And
honestly.
do we really have that many of them in town, do you think?
I think we
Well-
have way more than this one says, because this one is only listing this
Oh, it
sources
is.
from Airbnb and HomeAway, and this VRBO as well.
Oh,
I
so
think
who
that
did
this needs
this?
to be regulated for sure, but I see, I wanna take one.
Yeah.
I see there's two big differences in short-term rentals. When they're primary homes and when they're secondary homes. Because on the first paragraph that you have, you're listing the rise on STRs has led to considerable controversy, like their short-term renters have no investment in the neighborhood, one, being disruptive, two, increasing neighborhood rental rates, and the issue with the long-term rental. All these issues, I see them coming from the secondary homes. I Airbnb my house, I mean, it's very different when you have a person that lives there and there's everything in their house with someone that is not. I think it's a huge difference. Like, we are there, we can regulate, we can tell people what they can do, what they cannot. I live there, so I care about making sure that my neighbors are not complaining, or the people staying in my house are not screaming and doing crazy stuff, they don't leave the trash out and all that. So having someone, when someone lives in the house, it's very, very, very different than having someone that is a second home.
I think that the county follows the same rules, and I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I don't have a problem for there being different,
No, I
some
don't
sort of
think
accountability.
their county doesn't have any different.
Well, they're still
legislation.
working, I know there's two
Yes.
that are still working on it,
Yes.
so.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
determined, yeah.
So I think there's
I don't
a
know if
big
Georgetown,
difference in
I
that.
don't know if Georgetown had a difference. I
They
think it
did
was
not.
flat out the same. So maybe we need to.
Georgetowns are different than the counties, but they're better.
I think they're much
I
better.
mean, I
They
think-
talk about you have to mail out to 100 people
I
within
think-
Area.
150 feet, and then it has to go through a yearly review, and it's the city administrator, or city manager.
They're only allowed
who's
so
on-
many in each zone,
It's
George.
that parking
7%, which I
plans.
think is another
I
thing.
think
that's
we're
different
all
than-
agreeing that some regulations
Regs
need to be put in
And-
place, and that's probably the start.
And just to let Alan know, and Andy, I don't particularly think that we need to reinvent this wheel. I mean, we can look at this, because Georgetown's within our county. And what I'm also thinking is, I think the county's going crazy and trying to do something totally different. I think it would be much better if we absorbed one style or set of regulations for the entire county, and we all just adopted them internally. That to me makes the most sense, because if I am going to vacation in Clear Creek County, and one year I'm gonna stay in Georgetown, and one year I'm gonna stay in Idaho Springs, don't you want some sort of consistency across
Yeah.
the board about what you expect to happen when you're in that I mean, I think we all do, we all live in the same Forest Service area, we live in the same river area, whatever it is, you know, bear, same kind of animals are in our areas. So we're really trying to solve the same issues. We all have parking issues, it's all the same. So I don't want you to feel like I'm saying, you know, Alan, on top of everything else you're doing, please go and make a brand new spanking one of these for us. And
I wouldn't have,
let's start it. Good.
I would have just stolen Georgetown, put our name on it.
Pretend like, I'll change a couple words.
And I was gonna ask of our council here, have you guys written a bunch of these out of your
Yeah,
office?
I was gonna add that. Recently, we've been writing a lot of these for a lot of our municipalities, so we have models that you can use, and we can even present it. The way I've done with a past municipality just like a couple months ago, I've drafted an ordinance and put like option 1, option 2.
That's, and then
And
let us.
I would highly recommend, based on what you're saying, is to strictly define principal residence. So a lot of, and only allow them in someone's principal residence. So that's what a lot of the past few municipalities have done. And there's strict ways to do that. Boulder County does that. We're doing that in Edgewater, Netherland.
Yeah.
So, and we could easily do that, prepare that for you.
So when you say principal, that means
They have to
though
live
if
there.
you have
Right.
a rental unit, you can't use it as an Airbnb. I don't know. I
No,
mean, I don't
it'd still
know
be a
enough
principal,
about-
like if you rent from a, right, so that issue has come up. If you, that's still your principal residence, right? It's on your tax bill, it's on your voter registration. Some of the ordinances we've drafted say you just need to have your landlord's, notarized consent. But that still is your principal residence. What's on your tax bill, where you
Primary
vote.
is, there's a difference in primary then too. Primary or is principal are the same?
It's the same thing, yeah, where the person lives.
Because I look at, is my primary residence, I don't think maybe I would do an Airbnb, but if I had a rental, I would do an Airbnb. So that's the
issue
opposite
that
of what
is
you're
happening
saying.
It's,
Yeah.
that's the issue that is happening in town. There's people buying houses so they can Airbnb them.
Yeah.
And that increases the housing costs for your,
Exactly.
for your.
And it also
We need
reduces
affordable
the
housing.
long-term rental.
Increases our affordable
Nobody can
housing.
find
too.
housing,
Yeah.
yeah.
If there's
that's
been
the
studies
thing.
on it, seriously decrease affordable housing for long-term rentals if you
Right.
have unregulated short-term rentals.
What I liked about Georgetown is that Bill was saying earlier, it does give you a cap on how many that you can do in each, in our case, ward. So I think that is a brilliant piece of that puzzle to bring into it. And, and we're talking about secondary homes, right? Or are you, Cindy, you're talking about the cap in the
I
bill?
think there
you
should
too?
be a cap for secondary homes. for sure.
Absolutely. I
I'm
mean,
still,
I
I'm
would
still
go,
absorbing all this.
So, well, a lot of
Well,
places
I
recently,
know, because,
you can only do a short-term rental in your principal residence. So you can't buy a second home and just have it for income.
but it's
you're-
happening, so how do
Well-
we tackle that after the
But see, wait a
fact?
minute,
Yeah, there's very
I don't have a person that would do that and make some money.
But not
Well,
if
it
it
depends
wasn't
on
allowed.
what your policy decisions are, but, because you guys have mentioned it, I'm only saying that the past few ones that I've worked for, they've strictly defined what principal residence is so that, to regulate that, so it only could be your principal residence. If that's the way you're going, you're the policy makers, but.
Because if you wanna buy that second home and do a long-term rental, that's different than doing the
Right.
short-term.
Right,
Got
because
it.
once you're a long-term
No,
renter, you're
Yeah,
involved in the community,
there's more of an
absolutely.
invested
Exactly.
interest.
And you're gonna work here,
Yeah.
possibly you're gonna
I
work
mean,
here.
and that's one of the things we're talking about, not having enough volunteers. I mean, the only reason I can volunteer and all the things I do is because I have a job and I have an extra income with it. Airbnb,
Right.
that's a way we get volunteers, people to participate and join the
Okay,
community.
so it
I think
sounds
it
like-
sounds like we're on the same page, actually.
It sounds like regulation.
Okay.
She had offered to,
You won't get them next month.
to get
Some
like 3
options.
different ones for us.
Yes.
and-
You can start on it, but let me finish the comp
Review
plan,
I love it.
please.
And
Yeah,
and it's coming out of their office, so this is where it needs to be
Yeah, we have
dealt
that.
with.
Yeah, I mean, we represent
I
Georgetown and there's a
just
few
think
others that, we could
Right.
draft something.
Awesome.
I'd be happy to do that, but can I do it after the comp plan?
yeah, totally.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
I have so many things happening right now, I'm about ready to hit my head against the wall.
I think it's good.
See, I thought this was gonna be much more
Well, that's
peaceful.
because we took off July and August and September.
It's because I had the land use, is it land use or whatever it was, they were so difficult. There was a couple of really tough sections.
Fifth.
Yeah, like one from the county is like.
Halfway through.
So, we can just get different ones from her and go from there, and then, maybe January, or December, January, whatever. Once we get those, we
A 2018
Following
project.
the comp plan,
can send them out to us so that we can review
we're
them.
gonna start strategizing
everything.
what our next steps are, we're gonna be doing an overhaul of the zoning code next year too, so it's all kind of timely.
Jesus, we haven't done that one in 16 years.
Alright, well, that was.
That's gonna be something I'm not gonna do.
Not at all.
not going to do it.
So I think there's a lot more work, there's a lot of legal stuff, we're probably consulting some of that out.
Okay.
Okay. Is that it?
That's up to you. Mr.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.